Hi everyone, I'm Dina with Mills Family Gardening. In this video, we'll be talking about how to prepare store-bought Irish potatoes and store-bought sweet potatoes for planting. About a month before you plan to plant Irish potatoes in the garden, you'll need to buy store-bought potatoes, preferably organic. That's what we've been buying all these years. And we've had a really good experience with Yukon Gold potatoes. After you buy potatoes at a store, you need to keep them in a location that receives a lot of light. For example, under a grow light. That's where I've been keeping our Irish potatoes, but you don't have to have a grow light to sprout your potatoes. You can simply keep them by a window or near a grow light, like we have a box of potatoes here near a grow light. So they don't have to be underneath the grow light directly. You don't have to take the potatoes out of the original bag. They can stay in the bag as long as the clear side is up and they receive some light. After a month of staying in a bright location, your potatoes will grow little sprouts. Like you can see, all these potatoes have all these eyes. The process is called chitting, and all these are going to be new plants that eventually will grow new tubers. You can see that some potatoes have turned green, and that's okay. It's not a problem when you plant them in the ground. It is a problem when you try to eat them. In that case, you can simply remove the green part and eat the rest of the potato. We've had a really good experience with organic Irish potatoes and organic sweet potatoes. We have not had any experience with conventional potatoes and sweet potatoes, but you can try to buy conventional non-organic potatoes and try to sprout them and see what happens. If after a couple of weeks you don't see any growth on those potatoes, most likely they were sprayed and they won't grow any new plants. In that case, you need to buy organic potatoes. And make sure you keep your potatoes in a bright location. In this case, they will grow really strong plants for you, and we need strong plants to grow large tubers. So don't try to keep your potatoes in the pantry. In the past, I did keep them in the pantry. I kind of forgot about them, and then they did grow sprouts and eyes, but they were thinner, and I did not like that. Now let's talk about sweet potatoes. They're very similar to Irish potatoes when it comes to sprouting them. They need some bright light or bright location to start growing sprouts. So you can keep your potatoes either under a grow light or next to a grow light or next to a bright window or under a light on the countertop, and that bright light triggers the sweet potatoes to start growing sprouts. About a month before you plan to grow sweet potato slips, you can buy organic sweet potatoes at a store and prepare them for growing slips. If you buy them at a store and try to grow slips right away, it will take them a long time to grow slips, or if you put them in a very humid or moist environment, there's a very good chance that they might rot if they're not ready to grow slips yet. So you need to prepare or age your sweet potatoes a little bit so they would start growing sprouts much faster. And for that reason, you need to buy them a month in advance. About a month after you've bought sweet potatoes and kept them in a bright location, you will notice that your sweet potatoes have started growing tiny plants. I'm using the sweet potatoes that we grew last year in our garden. We harvested them in November. And since we don't have good storage conditions for sweet potatoes, they have already started growing sprouts. You can see little plants growing there, and then this sweet potato is growing a tiny plant. A lot of our sweet potatoes are growing little plants, so I'm just going to be using them to grow sprouts. And this happened because we keep them in the room that gets a lot of bright light, and also we store them at the temperature much higher than they're supposed to be stored in. If they were kept in much darker and much colder place, then they would not start growing slips so soon. When sweet potatoes are still dry and they're in a bright location, eventually they start aging and they start growing new slips. And when you notice that your sweet potatoes are starting to grow slips, you can simply put them in moist soil like that. Make sure to keep the soil moist at all times, water it when needed. Tiny little plants will eventually grow into sweet potato slips and they will get bigger. You can divide them, you can cut them off and put them in a container with water. They will start growing roots, and then when it warms up in your area, you can plant those plants in the garden. Some people like to use water to grow sweet potato slips, so once your sweet potatoes start growing little plants, you can simply put them in a cup with water. You put about 1/3 of the potato in the water, and then the rest of the potato will grow slips for you. That's a really good way to grow slips also. We live in North Texas, Zone 8A, A, and our planting time for Irish potatoes is about mid-February or beginning of February. So pretty soon we'll be planting our Irish potatoes in the garden, and they already have a lot of eyes, so they're ready to be planted. Ever since I've been buying Irish potatoes and sweet potatoes at a store and keeping them in a bright location, it's been a game changer. They have been growing sprouts much faster, and now I don't have to wait for weeks on end for when they finally start growing sprouts. So if you live in a zone similar to ours, now is the perfect time to buy your Irish potatoes and sweet potatoes at a store and keep them in a bright location and wait for them to start growing sprouts. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope it was helpful to you, and have a good day.